Hi, this is Dan, and here's my flying journal for July 2023. October 29, 2017 is the date of my most recent flyby of Mount Whitney. Maybe the most spectacular flight I've filmed so far, and I've been meaning to revisit that trip and the ones that led up to it as well. I backpacked to this summit in the 70s. It's one of those places that once you've been there, you'll hear its call over and over, so here I am again in 2004. I remember the surprises the first time I was here. For one thing, the top is just acres and acres of gentle slope. There were lots more people than I expected. There was a pretty substantial building sitting near the cliff edge, and my friends and I camped overnight inside it. I can't say it was the most restful night, thinking about how our shelter was perched as it was, barely yards from the sheer drop of the mountain's face. If you're looking for Mount Whitney from afar, it may be hard to spot because it's a little hidden behind and among many other tall mountains. The best way to pick it out is to look for its triad of pinnacles, a large main peak with smaller twin spires on one side. The twin spires aren't so small. They're massive, fantastically sharp-edged and wicked-looking. It's like the mountain has fangs. Just a reminder that in many ways, indeed it does. The twins are named Keeler Needle and Crook's Peak. There's actually one more in the set, the furthest one down, and it's simply called Third Needle. As I vividly recall, the summit trail runs right up to the gap between the spires where it forms a threshold beyond which is seemingly bottomless space. What a view, but do watch out for that first step. So, I've been on foot to the top of Whitney twice, both times backpacking from the west, but that was decades ago. But that is to say, I have a little history and a lot of fascination with the mountain. And so do tons of other people. We're all naturally drawn mostly because Whitney is the tallest, at least for 1,600 miles around anyway. It's also that it's close to major cities and you can get halfway up the mountain without leaving your car. And there's outstanding trails to the summit that make it reasonably accessible. Accessible or not, the mountain still offers serious challenges, so Whitney both inspires and rewards. No matter how you make it to the top, you'll always feel like you've done something remarkable. It was a very cold morning after a rough night trying to sleep on the shelter's uneven stone floor, but there was no way we were going to sleep in and miss the sunrise. It's quite a place to read and relax. It's quiet up there, for sure, but it doesn't stay that way. So here's the pivotal moment of this story. There I was, standing on the summit, when the military jet swooped by very low overhead. I was in awe. Imagine how great it must be to fly among mountains like that. Back then, I had no idea that one day I'd be a pilot with a plane capable of doing the same. Years later, I remembered that I'd seen it done and I wanted to do it too. And by now, I've flown over Mount Whitney a few times. Not often, mind you, just every few years. Each time up, I'd be shooting with new and better equipment, and each time I enjoyed more realistic captures than ever before. You're looking at 2009 HD right now, and it's pretty good. Next up is 2017, which is vastly better, and I might have said it was clear as I could ever hope for. But cameras only keep getting better, and I'm looking forward to trying the next ones here too. Let's get oriented. This is Southern California. Mount Whitney is just a 3-hour drive north from Los Angeles. The blue line is the flight's track log. Starting from Kern Valley, it climbs over the Kern Plateau and onto the Sierra Crest. The flight hugs the east side of the crest to Mount Whitney and then on to nearby Tulainyo Lake. So now let's join the actual footage as we swing by Mount Mallory just a few moments before overflying Mount Whitney itself. We're flying along what I call the Whitney Crest, the 5-mile stretch of sublime peaks from Mount Langley to Whitney. Moving about this place is normally difficult to extremes, but in this moment, we can wander about it with perfect ease. We'll meet the Mount Whitney Trail at Trail Crest. It stands out clearly as a bright zigzag at center left. If you look carefully along the trail in the Whitney summit, you can make out hikers. There's lots of them. It's a prime day for them too. Aptly named Guitar Lake sits in the basin far below. We once sheltered there in a lightning storm. The bunch of us huddled beneath the boulder until the storm cleared. We completed our climb to the top well after nightfall. Above 14,000 feet now and still climbing well. It feels like floating, but it's not a strain for the Cardinal's turbocharged engine. I'll veer off to the left if I can't get the altitude I want. There's some convective lift off the mountain that's helping. The summit passed underneath in a flash, and the sudden absence of ground below made no difference to the Cardinal. As we turn around toward the west side of Mount Whitney, we can see the walls of the remarkably deep canyon of the Upper Kern River. Beyond that are the alpine peaks of the Great Western Divide. The summits of the Divide are nearly as high as those of the Whitney Crest, but they're nowhere near as well known. They're effectively hidden in the interior of the range. If you want to see them close up, please see my 2019 film, Let's Go Flying, Kern Valley to the Great Western Divide. On the west side of Whitney, the southernmost section of the John Muir Trail is a bright zigzag that connects to the Whitney Trail at Trail Crest. The peak just to the left of Trail Crest is the one named for Muir. My first pass at the summit was a bit of a trial run. The air proved to be smooth and the plane performed well. I gained more altitude too, so the second pass can be over the more daunting east face of the mountain. That completes the first part of what I set out to do. Next up is a flyby of Tulainyo Lake, just a few miles north of Whitney. It's too close and too spectacular to leave out. Flash back to December 1988, and it's probably my first flight over the top of Mount Whitney. This is when I noticed that there's a big lake practically on top of the next mountain over, and isn't that a strange place for a lake to be? So now I'm fascinated and Tulainyo's officially on my radar. It's January 2009. How the years fly by, and so do I. Mount Whitney and Tulainyo Lake have become familiar landmarks by now, and they help guide my flight across the mountains. Moving eastbound as we are, the Sierra Nevada comes to an abrupt but spectacular end as it descends into Owens Valley. Turning around, we get another good look at frozen Tulainyo and back at the mountains just crossed. Tulainyo's at nearly 13,000 feet, and maybe the highest lake in the U.S., depending upon what you care to call a lake. But highest or not, what makes it special is its otherworldly setting, perched on the edge of the crest as it is. Here's a second pass at Tulainyo, this time a little lower. Glaciers shaped this place and somehow scooped out the bowl of the lake, though it's a bit like carving a pit on the very edge of a knife. A steep turn heading back to the lake reveals the massive granite structures supporting the lake basin. It doesn't look real, does it? At this point, though I've only spent a few minutes around the crest, it's time to return to Kern Valley. I feel lucky. A perfect mountain flying day finally arrived and all my preparation paid off. I got to take these places that I love home with me, capture better than ever before, and share them with you too. I have to say that I don't encourage anybody to do as I've done here. Yes, it's amazing to fly up there, but it can also be extremely dangerous if you don't have an appropriate aircraft, the mountain flying experience, or the benefit of perfect conditions. Anyway, I look back at my years of returning to Whitney and Tulainyo, always looking to capture better images with better cameras than before, and I'm tempted to go back and try yet again with the next generation of cameras. Or I may not, simply because there's just so many other amazing places to fly to and film. But there may come a day when I hear Whitney calling to me again and I feel the need to go back. Or one day I may happen to be in the neighborhood with cameras ready when I realize that all it takes is only a small turn of the yoke to visit Whitney and Tulainyo once more.